Welcome to another episode of Distory with Kate Kirk. My name is Kirk from walruscarp.com, and we are finally going to a different version of the Tower of Terror. Coincidentally, Disneyland wasn't first for an attraction, but we're excited to head over to Disney's California Adventure and explore the construction of that version of the tower, as well as Disneyland Paris. And with me to explore a new Tower of Terror is Kate, the Disney Cicerone. Kate, how you doing this evening?
I'm so great. I'm so happy that it's evening. We usually record this in the mornings, and I'm always half asleep for that. So happy to be awake.
That was my favorite phrase for like the longest time too. So
honestly, I am very excited to jump over to, of course, my home park, which is Disneyland Resort. I'm very, very thrilled about that. However, it's interesting to me, as I've been making a lot of content and whatnot for this tower series, how many people are confused about what tower still exists and which one doesn't. Because anytime I make anything about the Florida version, they say, oh, I really missed that, and I'm so sad they took it away. And here's the thing. They did take it away only in California Adventure. They have converted it to Guardians of the Galaxy, but it still exists in Disneyland Paris. It still exists in Hollywood Studios. And so we're going to talk about one that doesn't exist anymore and one that still does. And they're very, very similar, almost identical. So that is why we're going to tackle them at the same time. Let's get started here. We got a lot to talk about. And this episode in particular is going to focus on the overall concept, the mechanical changes, the construction, the exterior of the building. That's what we're going to do this episode for both DCA and Disneyland Paris, which was Euro Disney back in the day. Speaking of Euro Disney, this free fall attraction that we have, even though they converted it to a different elevator system, we've discussed about how they were going to have a free fall version of the Hollywood Tower Hotel in Walt Disney World. We've talked at length about it, showed you lots of concept art, but that was not the only time they considered doing a free fall version in the Disney parks. So I thought we could cover just a couple of those really, really quick before we move into the actual version in California Adventure. There were actually 3 places Imagineering was considering a free fall attraction in the Disney parks in the late 80s and early 90s, okay? So if you don't remember what a free fall attraction is, it's essentially this, it'll take you up in this big tower, and then it will just drop you down and you actually end up on your back because there's a slide, like a run out that goes in. So you end up on your back at the very end because of the way that it's designed. So this concept here is from Disneyland Paris, or Euro Disney as it was back then. This is a Tim Delaney concept of a volcano, and this would have been in Discoveryland, right? So this is their version of Tomorrowland. So instead of Space Mountain being a literal copy of the original Disneyland Space Mountain, they made a new concept called Discovery Mountain. This would have been a large indoor section of the park containing multiple rides and themes of science fiction writer Jules Verne, including a roller coaster based on From the Earth to the Moon, which is basically what we ended up getting originally for Space Mountain there, and a drop tower based on the Journey to the Center of the Earth. So in a unique version of Space Mountain inspired from the Earth to the Moon, guests would have been led toward a typically Victorian-style lunar station, which had been visited on foot. And at the center of the complex, you're going to like this, Kirk. This one's a really cool concept. In the center of the complex was to be a gravity fall attraction based on the Journey to the Center of the Earth. Guests would be taken high up in the building, as if going to the summit of the volcano, as in the book, where they would have a panoramic view of the park before taking a breathtaking drop into the bowels of the Earth. So it's essentially a free fall ride, which you can see.
It's so cool.
Out there. Yeah, isn't that neat?
The thing that makes me feel a little bit excited is that, like, we don't lose this. Remember, things get shelved and then brought back. Like, Tokyo Disneyland Sea kind of replicates this, but they did something even better than a free fall attraction. You get a really pretty stellar dark ride in there.
Yeah. So they tried to do a volcano in the Disney parks for years. So this just shows one of the iterations of that obviously never ended up coming to pass. Another concept that they were considering, of course, was the one that we've already studied, which was in MGM Studios. They developed the Tower of Terror technology in 1991, which we previously discussed for the free fall attraction. So we're not going to get into that here. However, there was another one that we've talked about before on Distory. If you have listened to our Big Thunder Mountain series, another very long, very detailed series about the history of Big Thunder Mountain. They did develop tech for an attraction called Geyser Mountain in 1992. Now, the photo that I'm showing you here, this is just like a fan-made one. So just like it's a rendering that a fan did.
I know, it looks so cool.
It does. It's like this really tall tower with all this kind of like, red rocks of the Southwest around it and a water wheel and all this stuff. My understanding is like perhaps they were thinking about repurposing the tech that they were developing for Tower of Terror for this Disneyland attraction for Geyser Mountain, which they started developing in the late 80s and considering as a geyser mountain for Euro Disney on Disneyland Paris. So these are the actual blueprints for that one. And there is still a space for where this would have been in Disneyland Paris. If you visit there, there's like a space beyond Phantom Manor where there's a whole bunch of geysers. And I believe that's where they were planning on putting this attraction. But they were also planning on putting it in Disneyland. In Frontierland would have been part roller coaster and part free fall ride. And Imagineer Bob Beranek was one of the one leading the project. So Geyser Mountain, we went into this in detail, so I don't want to go over it again, but just to get you a little bit familiar with what this is, it was an attempt to make something decent out of the old Cascade Peak area in Disneyland, which now is just an empty hill in Frontierland. People have asked, why did they take down Cascade Peak? Partially, it was because it was getting old and the structure wasn't sound and all that stuff. But they thought if they demolished it completely and you didn't have the costs to demolish it as part of the cost of building this new attraction, it would get this project greenlit faster. So that was the plan for having Geyser Mountain there. It was going to be home to Jason Chandler. And there's a whole backstory to this. It ties in with Big Thunder Mountain, which would have been spectacular. Actually, Kirk, I'm really upset that we never got this ride.
Every time that we talk about it, and like the backstory and history and the comics that they produced around this story is so strong.
Yeah.
There's hope. You never know.
Yeah, who knows? It's still an empty spot in Disneyland. So, technically they could do it. But the problem is when they had to essentially save California Adventure from itself, that effectively canceled this project because you're not going to have like a drop tower attraction across the way from another drop tower attraction. Like you're only going to have one in the same vicinity, so.
But Kate, what's better than one drop?
Two. I agree. And I think they should still build it, but I don't have any say over that. That being said, let's talk a little bit about what we did get in California Adventure. And we can't do that without talking a little bit about the failure that was California Adventure when it opened in 2001. Okay.
I think, hang on, that's not an opinion of the podcast. That's just one opinion of one person on the podcast.
Kirk with the disclaimer.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to, I love Kate, but Michael Eisner, come on, my boy.
Okay, well, listen, I have evidence for this, okay?
Okay.
So in the summer of 1995, Michael Eisner and a group of Disney executives went on a 3-day retreat to Aspen, Colorado to devise a new plan for Disneyland's future. The team came up with a modest $1.4 billion plan, which was half the price of the previous Westcott plan, which was fantastic, and I'm very sad that we never got that. That's a whole nother topic. We won't get into that. Tokyo Disney at this point was developing at the same time with the Sky's the Limit budget, which made for some awkward lunches at WDI between the teams that were working on. One had like a very limited budget and one had like Sky's the Limit budget. And that's tough, I think, as two teams trying to design things. So this park was meant to be competition for a lot of California tourist sites was its original concept. But they didn't have the budget because of Euro Disney's financial failures. And they went way over budget over there and whatnot. So DCA was very cheaply made when it opened. It lacked the polish of Disneyland next door. I specifically remember, Kirk, so this is fun. I actually went through my old pictures and I found, because I did go there in 2005, but I didn't actually go into California Adventure at all. I only went to Disneyland. And that is because I'd heard so many things about how awful it was and I didn't have very much money. So I chose to go to Disneyland. And I don't think I was alone in that. I have this quote from Bob Iger in 2007. He said, "Anytime you do something mediocre with your brand, that's withdrawal." California Adventure was a brand withdrawal. So he knew that this was not something that was helping their brand. It was hurting it. And so because it was considered a half-day park and a lot of people, it's had a lot of off-the-shelf carnival rides, it had the wonderful, obnoxiously awful Superstar limo, which we've done an episode before here on Distory about. They knew they needed to do something to draw crowds into this park. They tried a whole bunch of things, adding nighttime shows and all this stuff. So when the first birthday of the park came around in February 8th of 2002, they announced a few changes because they knew they had to do something to save this park. So they announced adding a Bugs Land opening in fall of 2002 for the littles, essentially, because the park was too aged up, partially because of Michael Eisner's vision for creating more for teens and whatnot. So that, unfortunately, because Disney is meant to be a whole family brand, that left off a big chunk of their demographic. And that's also why families were not going across the way to California Adventure, because if they had littles, there was nothing for them really to do. So adding a Bugs Land was going to help that. But in this press release, they said also coming to Disney's California Adventure in the Hollywood Pictures backlot area is the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, a California version of the chilling and thrilling supernatural adventure which has proven wildly popular at Disney MGM Studios in Walt Disney World, Orlando, Florida. Inspired by Rod Serling's The Twilight Zone, the attraction is set within the spooky halls of the desolate Hollywood Tower Hotel. Guests are invited to retrace the steps of 5 previous visitors who disappeared one dark and stormy night. An elevator ride up into the Hollywood Tower is filled with strange apparitions and unsettling sounds, climaxing in a precipitous drop of, could it be 13 stories? Who knows? And then they say it'll open in 2004 in California Adventure. So just to kind of give you some perspective of where they put this here, this is a really fantastic map from Park Lore. So shout out to them for making this one that shows you what it looked like in 2001 when it opened. And we're specifically going to focus on this part that's in purple here with the Hollywood Pictures backlot, because that is where they were going to add this attraction. Now, there's not a lot of space in DCA. There's not a lot of space in Disneyland in particular. It's really, everything is very economized, is scaled down and made smaller. And Florida's Tower had been one of the most expensive rides Disney had ever built to date at $140 million. Very expensive attraction to create. But the entire California Adventure Park had only cost $650 million. So there's no way that they could replicate Florida's Tower as it was, because it was too big and it was too expensive. So they fixed some mechanical problems and made the ride more efficient, which we're going to get into more of that later. But just to give you an idea of what was going to happen here. But you can see here from Park Lore, here's 2001, and then they added the tower in 2005. So it just is, they just tacked it on to the end of the Hollywood Pictures backlot in the Timon parking lot area. Oh, I do have this too. I have this great billboard from coming May 5th. If you drop in, if you dare, the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. But we're not just talking about California Adventure here. We're also going to talk about Disneyland Paris. And I found this get ready for the big drop kind of promo for it. So Kirk, my understanding, I don't know if you ran into any of this, but my understanding is that this version of the tower that we have, that they share between the two parks, was originally designed for the Disneyland Paris park, but then Disney California Adventure needed fixing fast, so they used the Paris's plans for DCA. Did you run into anything about that?
No, I didn't find specific confirmation of that.
Okay. Well, my understanding is because they had so many financial troubles in Paris, they put the attraction on hold, even though they'd already developed plans for it. And then the project was eventually greenlit in 2005 and under construction in the center of the park behind La Terrasse seating area, or by early 2006. I think that's how you say that. They included it in a new Hollywood Boulevard lined with faux movie sets. So this is what it looks like here in Disneyland Paris. From what I can tell, this actually was an attraction that was designed first for Disneyland Paris and then imported to California Adventure to help state it. Let's move on a little bit to the ride concept. So I do have a pre-opening Imagineering show info guide from February 10th of 2004. So it was before the ride opened, a very early one. I want to say thank you to one of our Distory listeners who donated this resource to us to help make this series more comprehensive. I don't know if I'm allowed to show it because I don't know if I have permission to do so, but I am going to read what's in it, just like we did with the Florida version of the show info guide, because there's a lot of information on it that says this is not supposed to be public information. So just trying to protect everybody involved to make sure we're okay. But in the overview of the concept from the show info guide, it says, set in an abandoned luxury hotel on Sunset Boulevard in the Hollywood Pictures backlot, the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror features the mysterious atmosphere of the classic television series and a thrilling drop from the 13th floor in a high-speed 21-passenger hotel elevator into the fifth dimension and beyond. The story is told by Rod Serling in the opening moments of a lost episode of the Twilight Zone, and it's a fast-pass attraction is what it states. So they actually did have a note in the show info guide about the design. It says, towering 183 feet above Sunset Boulevard on the Hollywood Pictures backlot, The Hollywood Tower Hotel recalls the faded grandeur of period hotels from the golden age of Hollywood. Abandoned and fallen into disrepair, the glamour that the hotel once exemplified is still apparent. The pale ochre-colored hotel appears to be locked in time, with nothing changed since its sudden closure in 1939, when 5 unlucky souls mysteriously vanished in one stormy night long ago as they rode the elevator to the top of the tower. Guests at the attraction are invited to repeat their journey if they dare. This journey leads them through the lobby, the library, and into the boiler room and a bank of service elevators, which are still operational after over 60 years. This sounds very familiar to the Florida version, like honestly identical. As it carries guests up the tower, the elevator stops to reveal strange, disquieting sights and sounds. Ghostly figures of the missing tower guests appear. The walls and floor of the hotel seem to dissolve. At the top of the tower, the elevator doors open to reveal a gaping hole in the tower and a brief view of the outside world before the elevator plummets. And it has a note about the location in particular, which you can see is in the Hollywood Pictures backlot. And these are like the best concepts I found, Kirk. I don't know if you found anything else than this, but this is like, it's almost like pointillism. It's like dotted. And I don't know if that's because somebody's just like distorted the original concept art or if this is really how they were going to present this, because it looks really not great the way that it is now. It says the Hollywood Tower Hotel is located in the southeast corner of the Hollywood Pictures backlot. The site is typical of an upscale urban hotel in the Hollywood area in the 1920s. The building is oriented so it could be seen from the Sun Plaza of Disney's California Adventure Park. I also have this concept, which looks like it was maybe digitally rendered, of a very rough concept of what the hotel would look like at the end of the street, which looks like they were going to maybe make it more fleshed out than it ever actually got. And you can see also the red car trolley is going all the way towards it as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. The only other concept art I found, this is actually not concept art, this is production art of the Hollywood Tower Hotel, and this is something you do see inside the attraction, so I have this as well. This is much cleaner. Let's just talk about the exterior of the hotel a little bit and its design. So this is Pueblo Deco architecture, which is a blending of Southwest motifs and Art Deco accents with Egyptian shapes and metalwork. And I have a note that is from the show info guide. It says, about the architectural style. It says the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror is housed in an abandoned luxury hotel, reflecting the architectural style known as Pueblo Deco. This stylish, beautifully detailed structure creates an immediate, haunted, otherworldly impression appropriate to its Twilight Zone theme. Pueblo Deco, popular when the hotel was built in the 1920s, is characterized by the clean, geometric shapes common to the Art Deco style. However, from Southwestern Native American art, it borrows elements such as radial sunbursts, arrowhead shapes, and simplified thunderbird motifs. And then it says, a prime Southern California landmark in the Pueblo Deco style is the LA City Hall building. So that's what the Imagineering guide states. It's what it's kind of designed after. So this is what that looks like in case you're curious. This is the LA City Hall building that inspired the architecture for this one. Here's what it actually looks like. That was just a postcard, but you can definitely see the influences there. It does not look exactly the same, but there are some pieces of it that you can see that were influenced by it. And interestingly enough, there is a building that looks like this in the Hollywood Boulevard movie sets in Disneyland Paris. So you can kind of see on the right side, there's a big white building that is standing up there. And I'm pretty sure that they patterned that after this LA City Hall building as well. Kirk, do you have some things you want to share about the architectural style in the building?
Yeah, so I have a couple of examples, right? So Kate had already defined Pueblo Revival and Pueblo Deco to be like a combination of this American Southwest, New Mexico, Arizona, but then with highly geometric and streamlined patterns. So I have just a collection of the top 10 Art Deco hotels in America, and then I'll show you a couple of examples of Pueblo, which I think really look a lot like the tower and give us some of the color schemes. Yeah. So let's start off with the top 10 Art Deco. You can see, particularly with the metalwork and the refined contrast between like the dusty reds and some of those like really deep black or almost like a tarnished brown. Mm-hmm. And then there is column work on this first one, which is the Hotel Astor, which is in Miami Beach, Florida. When you go inside this hotel, you'll notice that the lighting fixtures as well as the flooring have similar shapes considering the triangle and the striped patterning on the floor. And then even the sconces remind me a lot of even like the tops of the griffins have a similar kind of look to them. I don't think the Chatwell does a great job in New York, so we're going to pass by the outside of it and go inside. They have a giant fixed clock in their lobby, but even like some of the murals on the side and the use of metalwork on here, it reminds me of some of the adornments that they have around the desk fixture area. Now, Kate has a great picture from the digitized. So like right after her pointillism concept art, on the edges of that, this Hotel Edison in New York has very similar structure pattern. It almost looks like a film spotlight, you know, like if you remember like the intros to certain films, like what's the one that's like, I think is it Spotlight Entertainment that they're like, dum dum
Searchlight, maybe?
Yeah, Searchlight. Yeah, maybe. Like they do like that. It that's what I get from the patterning on the sides of this sign and all the line work. The interior of this place is unreal.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it is quintessential. Like it almost reminds me of like the Hollywood Brown Derby too. It's like old Hollywood. Yeah. If I've ever seen anything. And in this one, again, lots of like vaulted ceilings, and you're seeing yellows, black, and really dusty reds and maroons come through, which concept wise, that's really important. One of the buildings that I think really embodies the Pueblo Deco design, and that's the Chemo Theater that was built in 1927. This is a postcard of it. It's built in downtown Albuquerque, New Mexico. The architect was Carl Bohler from Bohler Brothers Theater Architects, and this is the gold standard example of Pueblo Deco. So here's an actual image of it. This place is like locked in the 20s to me.
Yeah.
And the particularly the way that they frame the windows with these like almost like bronzed adornments and then tile work above. It's got lots of colors. This is a marquee because it is a theater, but a couple other things that we see in here are thick stucco walls. There are stepped levels to this that almost resemble like a mesa.
Yeah.
There's it's very desert in terms of palette, which that palette's really important, especially when we get inside to the theater. Here's a picture of it lit up at night. I just love the neon because, again, neon is a big part of the promotion of the Hollywood Tower Hotel and Tower of Terror. Like that is like such a quintessential piece of that. When we head inside, again, similar geometric patterns, but this time we see it a lot in woodwork, which there's a ton of woodwork in the lobby and less metalwork. Although this has it on the windows with like wrought iron gridding.
Yeah.
But again, lots of straight lines, not a lot of curves except for the ornate chandeliers that they have. But my favorite thing is the theater. And the reason why is the theater is basically the colors of the Tower of Terror. So if you look at the seating is red and gold. So I feel like color scheme wise, they 100% took that from there. And even I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit to show off one of the starbursts. So you can kind of make a connection with this is where the tower ends up going look wise in California. So you can see all the geometric patterns, all the triangles, the rays pointing out, and then obviously this indigenous tribe kind of color scheme comes through that. So
when I love that that radial sunburst also echoes the dial for the elevators, you know, the same kind of style of this half circle with the arrows pointing. I think
it's like subtle foreshadowing.
I love that. Let's talk a little bit about the backstory of this attraction. I do have the official backstory from the show info guide from Imagineering. So I'm going to read that just so that we have, this is what they wanted it to be, at least in 2004 before it opened. And it's going to sound very familiar. So buckle up, kids. According to Disney legend, the Hollywood Tower Hotel first opened its doors in 1928 and quickly secured a place of honor in the booming Hollywood film community. The elegant and imposing structure, styled in eclectic Pueblo Deco manner, still dominates the Hollywood landscape. This star among stars was at the height of its popularity in 1939 when a mysterious occurrence forced it to close. The Hollywood Tower Hotel was boarded up on the evening of October 31st, 1939, and so it remained until its grand opening in the spring of 2004. Though the grounds are weed-choked, the walkways cracked, the fountains dry, within the hotel seems largely unchanged. Unread mail waits at the front desk, a forgotten set of luggage stands nearby. On a table by a window sits a deck of cards, a dusty wine glass, an unfinished postcard. Aside from the layer of dust and patina of age, the lobby is just as it was on that last night the hotel was open for business over 60 years ago. There is something peculiar about the elevators, however. Behind the out-of-order sign, the doors are damaged and bent. The force responsible is obviously very great. The elevator indicator registers off the scale, below the basement level. It was here the mysterious occurrence took place one stormy, rain-drenched evening. As the elevator ascended, lightning struck the tower. The elevator plunged, carrying its 5 terrified passengers to certain doom. But this was no ordinary storm, no ordinary stroke of lightning. Before it reached the bottom of the shaft, the elevator and its passengers simply vanished, along with a large section of the hotel. The hotel immediately emptied, staff and guests utterly unable to contend with the baffling incident. No one ever came back. The hotel remained as it was, untouched, undisturbed, until now. So, it's almost identical to the Florida version, except that it has 1928 when the hotel was established versus 1917. That's the biggest difference, honestly. There are...
Are you kidding me, Kate?
What?
The dates are different?
I know. I know. Yeah. Interestingly enough, though, there is a part of this concept that is really different and has something you can go see today still over in California Adventure. And that would be the concept of the Silver Lake Sisters. Have you heard about these before, Kirk?
The Silver Lake Sisters?
Mm-hmm.
No. Let's talk about them.
So this is a big difference between the Tower Hotel in Florida and the one in DCA, because this is a story developed specifically for California Adventure. So the entertainment for the evening in this version of the tower featured the Silver Lake Sisters in the Tip Top Club. You can see them here. This is ones that they put in the tower right before they closed it forever. They had them performing in the lobby, which I think was really special, and I'm kind of bummed I missed that.
That's cool. That is so cool.
So the Silver Lake Sisters were Dottie, Dolly, and Ethel Bounds. Bounds obviously being the name that is borrowed from Walt's wife, Lillian. Her maiden name was Bounds, so it was actually referred to in the Disney parks quite often, including early Frontierland and whatnot. So they borrowed that name from Lillian Disney. They were known for their vaudeville performances under the name Fiddler, Fifer, and Practical. So those names we actually get from the name of the characters in the 1933 Disney animated film, The Three Little Pigs. So Fiddler, Fifer, and Practical. So Dolly is on violin, Dottie is on the flute, and Ethel is on the piano. So the name Silver Lake is actually a tribute to Walt Disney Studios, which was on Hyperion Avenue. From 1926 to 1940, that's where Disney Studios was located. And so is the Silver Lake District. And so that's why they're called the Silver Lake Sisters, as a nod to early Disney Studios, which would be, of course, tying back into Buena Vista Street and all of that early history of the studios itself. So these sisters actually disappear. They disappear into the fifth dimension with everybody else, but there's memorabilia from their performances inside the Fiddler, Fifer, and Practical Cafe, which you can still see today on in Buena Vista Street. And it's said in the 1930s the cafe was established after the trio, named after their stage names, Fiddler, Fifer, and Practical. The Silver Lake Sisters entertained audiences across the country, so they went and performed in the vaudeville circuit. They entertained troops during World War I. They became minor celebrities in Hollywood's nightclub scene, particularly on the Sunset Strip. And then after 2 decades of performing dance, music, comedy, they finally settled on Buena Vista Street. And the idea came from Ethel, who's the practical one, who had long managed the group's business affairs. She had been urging her sisters to open a more stable, legitimate business. And eventually they agreed, and the sisters launched the Fiddler, Fifer, and Practical Cafe, naming it after the beloved act as a tribute to their career. And later in life, as they resided on Buena Vista Street, the Silver Lake Sisters came to know a young Walt Disney in 1933, who used them as the basis for his company's animated short, The Three Little Pigs. That's the retcon story that they created for the Silver Lake sisters. Obviously, none of that is actually true, but it's a really fun story to tie in the tower with this landmark on Buena Vista Street and also Walt Disney and the history of the studios, which I think is really special.
That is cool.
Yeah. So before we move on, we just thought we'd take a quick little break to talk about a few things that we have going on over at Walrus Carp and Disney Cicerone. So Kirk, what is happening over there these days?
I have a great thing to share.
Yeah.
So we're knee deep in the holiday season, and we have a lot of clothes, and I want to get to them. But an exclusive to you,
Cool.
all the folks that absolutely adore the Tower of Terror. We had to make a shirt just for y'all. And you know what's funny is I've never made a shirt for Tower of Terror this entire time that I've been making clothes.
Yeah.
So we now have the thanks for stopping by, which kind of it makes
Dropping
me feel
by.
like Distory.
Dropping by.
Thanks.
You said stopping by.
Stop. If I could read my own things, that would be great. Nobody said I was good at any of this. Okay.
What's it a critical piece that it's dropping by, not stopping by?
What's a stop? New shirts. Little fashion show without me being inappropriate.
Fashion show at lunch.
We've got Cake by the Ocean, which I don't know if that's exactly appropriate, but yes, we have the Cake by the Ocean for any Jonas fans out there. We've got, this is a long sleeve. We also, we make t-shirts and stuff, but we also make long sleeves. This is, there's no Snope place like home. We got the castle and some bubs. We've got this is the Spinning in a Winter Wonderland, Centennial kind of Alice in Wonderland teacup.
That's fun.
We've got Scary and Merry, a vintage Mrs. Claus, who's part of a skeleton. It's going to be great. I really honestly just made that shirt for the 3 Christmas haunts I'm going to this year. I already have on the docket. And then I've got our grumpy walrus for legal reasons. So yeah, that's
nice.
But yeah, you can check out all of this stuff and more with free shipping at walruscarp.com. Horrible promo. Please, Kate, save yourself and do a better job slinging your wares.
Can you show us that tower shirt again? Because I feel like we didn't get a good look at it, because that one is really cool, and we're doing this series.
Let me pull, sure, you got it. Let me pull up a big picture, and thanks for dropping by, Kate.
Yeah. As always, I think that tower shirt is fantastic. I love that you integrated all of the lightning in it, and also that we're clearly climbing towards. Are we falling or climbing according to the dial? What was your concept?
My concept was that we were falling. So, but it's like I didn't want to put it at every other thing that I've ever seen. It's always at the top. And I'm like, but it's the movement is the fun part.
Yeah.
So
I love that concept.
I went with that instead.
That's great.
You could see. I may have stolen the Pueblo Deco windows while making this shirt. Just saying.
You're not supposed to tell people that.
Well, you can't. I was inspired by the Pueblo Deco windows.
It's a great shirt, Kirk.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So get it in dusty red if you want.
Dusty red. This is not the school bus vomit pink that John Hench had for the tower.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That's not a good color.
All right, so walruscarp.com, you can get your new Tower of Terror shirt inspired by this series. Great, Kirk. So over here, I thought it would be kind of fun because we are now in Disneyland, back in my favorite park. Well, not quite. We're next door to my favorite park in California Adventure. I thought I would talk about my very first novel that I ever wrote, which was Where the Fireflies Dance. It's book 1 in my Pixie Dust in the Park series. This book is actually partially set in California Adventure. So if you're a big fan of that park, I do like California Adventure now that they fixed it. So just to be very clear, I do enjoy the park. Just like the classic one.
Thank goodness Eisner did that for us so we could enjoy that park that Kate enjoys now.
He didn't fix it. Anyway, this is a romantic suspense woven with Disney history about 2 Disney history live streamers who find love in the shadow of Sleeping Beauty Castle in Disneyland. But with one of them hiding a dangerous secret, their fairy tale romance might just unravel into an unhappily ever after. So this is definitely a romantic suspense set in Disneyland mostly. But this was my very first novel. fiction story that I ever published back in 2023. So it's kind of fun to revisit it as the beginning of the series. And the other two books in the series, this one is set in Walt Disney World, which is what the mansion I see. And then we also have Who the Mirror Reflects, which is set in Disney World, but then also Disneyland Paris. So we do visit that as well. So all those are available on Amazon. Just search for Kate Grasso or Disney Cicerone. You can also find them all three on Audible if you prefer to listen to me read it to you.
Fireflies is scary, bro.
Scary?
Yeah, there's impending doom.
There is, yeah.
You don't know the whole entire time, and then you finally, at the end, there's a precipice where the dam finally breaks, and you find everything out.
Yeah, it's the most suspenseful, I think, out of all three of them. And it's a fun one to write. Yeah. But especially because it's in my home park and it's Disneyland is like what I know the most about out of anything in Disney history. That one was in particular was a very fun one to write.
Yeah, there's more like soul-searching emotive conflicts in the others where this is like a physical conflict.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Okay, let's hop back into the tower. We're going to talk a little bit about the mechanical changes in the construction of the tower. I'm just going to give you a little bit of information about what has changed from Florida to here, because we went over that one in great depth. And then Kirk's going to give you a lot more technical information. So we've already mentioned that the lack of space in California Adventure required a smaller footprint for the building. So again, thank you to Parklore for making this amazing blueprint layout of how this tower is organized, which I'm sure we'll revisit as we go through the tower. The main difference is instead of having the fifth dimension scene where your car actually comes out and moves through the fifth dimension and locks into another shaft. So there's 3 elevator shafts, and each shaft is its own ride in itself. The ride vehicles are dumb, literally pushed and pulled into the shaft by a piston versus the autonomous guided vehicles, the AGV vehicles that they had in Florida, which were a major source of breakdowns and still are today. So they got rid of that element. They pulled it out, and they also, made the whole building is much narrower because they don't have to have that move into the fifth dimension. They just have the one main drop shaft. Each shaft has the capacity to accommodate 2 vehicles operating from 2 load levels, and each vehicle loading and unloading at the same point. The ride was designed so that one vehicle can be in its ride profile while the other is at its loading level, giving each ride shaft the ability to accommodate more riders. I also have a note from our good friend Joshua, who's been helping us out with this series from the E82 project. He mentioned that this particular version of the tower can actually open their roof like a toolbox for motor changeouts, which is something that they realized after the fact that they would need in Disney World's version, so it doesn't have that same capability. So essentially they can just open the lid of the top of the tower, which I think is pretty neat. Yeah, so I thought that was cool. But Kirk, what do you got to share with us a little bit about maybe the mechanics of this or how any of these things work? I'd love to hear from you about that.
It's uglier than Disney World. I'd like to start there.
Yeah, it is. I'm going to agree with that. It is uglier than Disney World.
Listen, you know what it is? It's a less expensive, right? More efficient. It's a fantastic attraction, and I think it was brilliant in the concept and how they designed it, but the look and feel of it is dramatically different.
I will just say that I think this version of the tower really is the budget version. This is the budget-friendly version of the tower, and I think there's no other way to describe it but that. Yes, they changed the style. They made it simpler when they changed the style, so it's very clean lines. There's a lot less detail that's needed, and honestly, I agree. I don't think it's nearly as pretty and as dramatic and as even imposing as the Florida version. I think this is the lesser version of the tower, even though I love the Art Deco, kind of like the Pueblo Deco design. Just stylistically, I'm a huge fan of that. I would agree that the Florida version was superior to this one. And it was so much more expensive, so it makes sense that it would be, And I think getting rid of the fifth dimension was a huge mistake, even though the fifth dimension isn't perfect. I think having that element added a lot of suspense to the ride that this one never had.
So my biggest problem with it is without loading into a separate secondary shaft, which created oh my God, I didn't realize the elevators could do this moment. You just are riding an elevator and nothing changes. So it's just I know it's going to go up. I know it's going to go down. I honestly, the way the ride system was, I think their Guardians makes more sense the way that that's orchestrated.
Yeah,
story-wise.
that's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
But I don't think it's better,
Well,
but I think
we
story-wise.
lost the element of surprise because the surprise was, oh my gosh, what is our elevator doing? It's moving forward, which elevator is not
that's not
supposed
normal.
to do.
Right.
And given that the whole concept of the Twilight Zone was an element of surprise, that was, I mean, not just the drop being the surprise, but literally moving forward was a really creative element of surprise that we lost in these versions.
Yeah.
So,
I
all
would
right,
agree.
Kirk, what do you got?
All right, I wanted to just show. So it's hard to find a really good photo tool. Like there's a couple of really good ones for both Disney and Disneyland, but they don't cover like everything. I found one. I don't know how I'd never stumbled upon this before. DisneyGeek.com. I want to give them a shout out because they have amazing construction photos from start to finish. Now, I'll just describe the photos and I'll go really quick because there's quite a few dates on here. I might even skip a couple of the albums, but if you really want to get nerdy, DisneyGeek.com to take a more pictorial look at the construction of the DCA version. So the first thing is this is site prep, right? So we're looking at them leveling, grading. And to put this into like perspective, to today's date is we're November 13, 2025, right? We're seeing this for Encanto, like lots of grading before they can put in footings and cement structures. So that's the first thing. All the lumber is on board with cranes. Then they start actually putting in the foundational pieces and the steel grid work. And of course, any of the rebar goes down. Now we're into the date. So we started in March of 2002. This is May of 2002. Lots more actual pillars being placed and support beams. August 25th. Now we're starting to see the tower take shape, right? It actually doesn't, in terms of timing, right? The project gets approved in 2002. They start doing the leveling then. The full vertical construction gets completed in 2003. Then it's show programming and then soft opening in April of 2004 with the grand opening in May 5th. So right now we are currently in August 25th, 2002. You're seeing some of the vertical construction. It's starting to really, by October, we're starting to get that toolbox on the very top as well as the individual shafts. So you can see the complete entire setup and like basically the skeleton, if you will, of this. I also don't know where they're filming this from. I don't know that area well enough to know like where this would be.
It's possible that this was from the Ferris wheel that's over there. Maybe not quite this angle, but like you could get a really good overview from the Sun Wheel,
like the Pixar Pier-ish.
Yeah, the one that's now the Pixar Pal Around.
Gotcha.
It's possible they got some of those from that if they're aerial views.
Okay. By March, there's so much scaffolding on the outside. It means that they're starting to like actually put up the framing and walls for the exterior. So all of this was from February 14, 2003. It's also now like being covered. So the project, you know, it's exciting, like seeing an attraction being built. I've seen several in Walt Disney World, and when they hide things from you, it's like, oh gosh, I just want to see it. But then 5 months later, we're in August and the exterior is almost complete. Right. We're starting to see some of the purple grading, which, you know, like it or love it, the way that they, and we'll see this in the groundbreaking, the removal of the towers and the placement of the fifth dimension, they use color here, but they also use the lightning as it's almost like the tower gets struck and it almost looks like it has like sear scorch marks around the edges where that purple paint is. Or at least it's almost like a blast is the best way I can say it. It feels like something went off and it disappeared everything.
It looks more supernatural because it's purple. It's like,
right. Like that's not a normal color.
No. And it's like the one in Florida is more like gray and black and like it looks like
it's
something
like
got
scorched.
burned. Yeah. And this one's purple, like something else happened here besides just getting burned.
in October, they place finally the sign. Just that must have been an exciting moment for everybody. You can start seeing some of the show lighting in place. Yeah, what's up?
So in March, when they had the sign lighting, they actually had a ceremony that featured watermelon smashing comedian Gallagher. If you remember Gallagher.
What?
Yeah, and the crowd was encouraged to scream to power up the sign, kind of like Monsters Inc.
No way.
Yeah. I don't have any pictures from it, but I thought that was fun.
Did he smash a watermelon?
He must have. I mean, that was his shtick, right?
That was his shtick. That's crazy. And then finally, we're getting like so close to operational here in March of 2004. It's basically show ready. They're doing all the programming stuff and the finalization. So the thing that I always think about when I see these is the speed in which things were done and the speed in which things are done now in this company. It's not that far off. We're 21 years different, but this attraction from approval to finish is basically 2.5 years.
So fast, lightning
which
fast
is
compared to today.
Incredibly fast.
Yeah.
Encanto, I think, and remember, we had already started like leveling, but like when it was announced to where it'll be finished, we don't have any dates. It would be amazing if they got it done by 27, which would be the Tower of Terror's time frame. I'm guessing it's going to be much later, but we'll see. We'll see how fast it goes up. What I do like about this guy, the Disney geek, is he did go to the Hollywood Tower in Hollywood to just take pictures, which I thought like, oh, he's like geeky and you know, he's
I love
like
that.
us.
Yeah.
So shout out to the Disney geek or just disneygeek.com.
Yeah, that's excellent. What a great resource to have as a history of that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing the photos, because I would have never had insight on what any of this looked like.
So I have a couple of great photos from Yesterland. It's also a nice resource for Disney history, things that are defunct in the Disney parks. This is a sign that was on the construction walls as they were building this, and it said Hollywood 1939, amid the glitz and the glitter of Hollywood at the height of its golden age. The Hollywood Tower Hotel was a star in its own right, but something happened. Something dark, something unexplainable, something terrifying. And it's happening once again. But this time, it's happening to you. The Twilight Zone, Tower of Terror.
It reminds me of the Haunted Mansion when they had those signs out there. Like, I like these preview signs. We don't really get them for attractions anymore. It's mainly the generic quotes about like moving forward or innovation or creativity. Yeah. But it's never storytelling. Like the walls should be storytelling. Like, set the guests up for what is coming.
Okay. That is true in Disney World. Disneyland, they do a fantastic job usually of, they actually put concept art from like the classic concept art from the attraction out there. Sometimes they have interactive elements that are on the outside walls and stuff. Okay. They have a lot of really cool stuff in Disneyland. It's just Disney World that does that. So for whatever reason, Disney World is to get on the ball with that.
We do get concept art, but we don't have storytelling, right? Like, you get to see kind of what's going there, but there's nothing like, they have the Encanto stuff on the Tropical Americas, so you can like see it, but there's no explanation of like, this is going to be the Encanto ride, or like, we're going to be exploring the casita, you know? And like, you get more of that by going into, which is very cool, by the way. If you go into One Man's Dream right now, they have the D23 model that they had brought out for the announcement of it. So that's actually there, which is really cool. And because like, we don't have the Jungle Cruise now, but that's what we have, and you can see how large. And it's weird, the show building for Encanto is stepped, which I think is interesting, but it's I digress. Check out all this stuff when you get a chance, because it's always really fun to see when they're actually like, you can be a part of history right now if you're going to Disney World and see them building and constructing.
That's so fun. I love that. I just have a couple of other notes about the construction. So in California Adventure, it was the Timon parking lot that they lost when they built that. So I just have a couple of pictures of that. You can see what the parking lot used to be before they built all of this stuff. And I have a few photos like Kirk does of them actively building that. And it's interesting to me in this particular photo, because on the right side here, there is just kind of a big blank wall that they later turned into something that is supposed to look like Disney Animation Studios. There is a window on the upper part of that corner that is always lit, and it's supposed to represent Walt Disney's office in Disney Studios. But that wasn't installed yet, so that's just kind of pre-Disney Studios. So the back side of the tower taking place, which is something you can see from Harbor Boulevard, and that's always like one of the first things you see, Kirk, when you get close to Disneyland, is you either see the Matterhorn or you see like the Tower of Terror, depending what direction you're coming in. It's like the tallest structure in the area. So, well, that's not Tower of Terror anymore, but you know what I mean.
It always freaks me out when I leave the Riviera because I'm staring at the tower. It's like huge from the Riv.
Yeah. I have something from the Orange County Register back from September 21st, 2001. And it says Disney has started construction on a Tower of Terror ride at its new California Adventure theme park. The ride is like the popular Twilight Zone Tower of Terror ride at Disney World in Florida, built in 1994. However, because of the terrorist attacks on New York's World Trade Center towers last week, the Anaheim version of the ride will be called something different. According to Disney Watchers, construction is underway. So they had planned to change the name of the attraction because of the terrorist attacks of September 11th.
Remember, and this isn't the first time that they've decided to make changes because that like Easter egg of take the stairs didn't exist before.
Right. Exactly.
Due to a reference of a tower falling. So
they must have felt by 2004 that they had gotten far enough away from 2001 that it was okay to call it Tower of Terror and people wouldn't be triggered, I guess. So,
well, I mean, you're talking about within the week in that article. Do you know what I mean? Like that is a high sensitivity point with obvious understanding.
Right. Exactly. So anyway, just thought that was in a little bit of interesting history. I don't know what they would have called it other than Tower of Terror, but just kind of an interesting point.
They were going to call it the Boo Building.
Yeah.
The Scream Scraper.
The Scream Scraper. That was a good one. The only thing we didn't really talk about is the construction in Disneyland Paris, which I don't have great photos of, but I do have a couple of them. And it's very, very similar in style to Disneyland California Adventures version. However, because of the laws of the land when they were constructing this, they constructed the entire building using concrete rather than steel due to French construction guidelines and standards, at a total cost exceeding 180 million euro, which is a lot of money. So you can see that this is them installing the cars. They're pulling the plastic off of the actual ride vehicle, which I thought was pretty neat. And then you can see it. There's actually a really fabulous video by Martin Smith who did this kind of like tribute to the Twilight Zone, which I'll try to add in the show notes. I'll add in the show notes because it has both the opening ceremonies of both of these towers plus a lot of the construction. And there's a really neat video of them actually constructing this tower, and you can watch it kind of going from the ground all the way up. It's a time lapse that's pretty fascinating to watch. But again, all made with concrete rather than steel. So very different. You don't see that steel structure like you do in California Adventure. Instead, you see them building literally from the ground up because they don't have all that steel inside. So this is a little bit further on of them constructing it and installing the little domes here. So I just have a couple of facts that are from this Imagineering show info guide before we move forward here into opening day. So it says, reaching 183 feet, the Tower of Terror is the tallest attraction in the Disneyland Resort. Although the building is officially 183 feet tall, it also extends 40 feet underground, which I didn't know that. So that's pretty interesting. It has number of elevator shafts is 3, number of elevator ride vehicles is 6, number of guests per elevator is 21, number of floors according to the official city permits is 11, but according to Twilight Zone records, it's of course 13. The legendary Hollywood Tower Hotel, the date the hotel originally opened is 1928, and it originally closed October 31st, 1939. The ride system is not actually an elevator, but rather a vertical vehicle conveyance, which reminds me of the Seance conveyance name we almost had for the Doom buggies in Disneyland. The attraction features 3 of the largest motors ever built for such a conveyance. They are 3 times larger than the largest high-speed elevator motors and faster than the fastest high-speed elevator in the world. I feel like you're describing a superhero.
Faster than lightning.
Faster than fast.
The fastest of the fast.
So just a couple of fun facts directly from the show info guide from Imagineering. Before we head to opening day for these attractions, we got to throw it to Kirk. I heard you found something really interesting about Disneyland Paris. So
okay,
show us what you got.
Hear me out, everybody. I found a resource. It comes from Germany. It's a German publication, but knowing Germans, they're very technical people. So this was an 8-minute segment that was put on regular TV, and it was called Disney Film Parade. So hang on, let me turn the volume off. But it literally has it's I don't know if it was in conjunction with Disney at all, but I mean it looks like an official Disney segment.
Yeah.
Disney Film Parade.
It does.
This is a fun one. So this is all the construction of Disneyland Paris to set this up. We're going to jump around and I'm going to show you basically some of the more technical aspects of their attraction in Disneyland. Away we go. This is the elevator cabs being delivered. So we actually can see them like ripping apart crates and pulling out with a forklift the giant elevator cars, which I think is really cool. Like, when do you get to see them being unwrapped?
Oh, yeah.
And then installed into the actual shaft themselves. Now we're going to get into the more geeky stuff. I'm going to be reading the German translation of this, so just
nice.
Bear with me. You don't just fall, you're pulled downward at a speed of 13.6 meters per second. Through the opening in the machine room ceiling, it looks like this. And this is the steel cable that goes with it. The machine room is a marvel of technology, and we can explain some of the mechanical systems. For example, each motor works using the same principle. The motor drives the first drum, and right after the second drum, on the first drum is the main hoisting cable that lifts and lowers the cabin with the guests, and on the second drum is the hoisting cable for the counterweight. A locomotive has about 5,000 horsepower. These motors produce almost double that. What stops these motors safely are gigantic brakes, four brakes per motor. We have 3 motors because it is a 3-guest elevator shaft. The power for these motors comes from this building, which houses 2 high voltage lines coming directly from the power plant. From here, the electricity is going to go up transformers and a 2,000 volt high voltage converted into 600 volts, which powers the motors.
Wow.
There's the power plant right there. So it's 1 transformer per motor, so a total of 3. The floor of this building has to be waterproof, so it can hold 10 cubic meters of cooling fluid. That is 10,000 liters of oil, and each transformer weighs about 13 tons.
Wow.
From here, the journey into the 4th dimension is controlled from the Tower of Terror's central computer, and these experts with all the equipment consist of the show control computers, where they store all the lighting, sound, and mechanical effects that transport visitors into another world. Every mysterious thing that happens inside this building is controlled from here. And there is over 100 kilometers of cabling for just the computers.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
They said 4th dimension. Did they mean 5th dimension?
No, this says the journey from the 4th dimension. Again, this is translated from
the 4th
German,
to the 5th,
so
maybe? From the journey from the 4th to the 5th. I don't know.
Here, the journey into the 4th dimension is controlled from the Tower of Terror's computer central. I'm reading verbatim what Google Translate did.
All right.
So that's the best I got. For many of our tests, we use sandbags to simulate guest weight, but the extreme acceleration would make them burst and contaminate the entire shaft. So instead, what they utilize here are water dummies, which are much easier to clean. So they use these little water dummies. But I love that one picture where you can see inside their like heads, and it's like you can see the water sloshing around. I just think that's cool.
safer than real people.
Yeah,
Just
safer.
using-
Well, yeah. Could you imagine cleaning that up? Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's interesting. Kirk, that
So,
is
yeah.
fascinating. All of that,
Yeah.
the
Hey,
technical
thanks.
details.
You can thank that segment from Disney Film Parade, Germany. Dude, Fourth Dimension. It's a misread on all of them.
Really?
Yeah.
They say
From
fourth
here, the
dimension?
journey into the fourth dimension is controlled. They say that the journey into the fourth dimension is controlled. Complete misspeak.
What? That's crazy.
Well, doesn't sound like the Germans are really that, mechanically and on point.
Oh, no.
Someone got fired for that when they got back.
They're like, it's the fifth dimension. What are you talking about? Insert German expletives here. Let's head on over to opening day for these attractions. Starting with, there was a preview dinner on April 23rd of 2004 where attendees received a golden pocket watch and a decorative tile depicting the tower. There was also a red carpet premiere down on the Hollywood Pictures Backlot's Main Street. And the ceremony itself was hosted by Carol Serling, who's the wife of late Rod Serling. And also this dude, who is Buddy the Bellhop, which was a character they developed for the 2004 ad campaign promoting the tower. Kirk, did you happen to have that video pulled up? Do you have it around anywhere?
I do.
Hollywood, California, the movie capital of the world. And when you want to hobnob with the stars, there's only one place to stay. The Hollywood Tower Hotel. Until that tragic night in 1939, when 5 people checked in, never to be seen again.
Welcome to the Hollywood Tower Hotel, where the elevator
I'll take you to 13.
shoots you straight up. And when the doors open, you're in for the elevator ride of your life. Enter a new dimension of fear.
Hollywood Tower Hotel.
The Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. A 13-story plummet, faster than gravity itself. Straight down through the historically haunted Hollywood Tower Hotel. The Twilight Zone Tower of Terror at the Disneyland Resort May 5th.
You can't miss it.
Drop in if you dare.
Buddy the Bellhop became this kind of like icon for this opening. He says the hotel has 75 rooms and 5 suites, including the unattainable ethereal suite on the 13th floor. He also says the room rates, Kirk, go up and down. So you never know what to expect there. But I love, in particular, this photo of Buddy the Bellhop, which they put out during the opening. I don't know if it's opening week, but right around the time that it opened, he's essentially holding like a room service tray. There's a sign that says check in underneath it. It's a little confusing because I don't think bellhops usually did room service. I always thought, but maybe they did. I don't know.
Right.
But he looks very creepy. He almost looks dead, but they're not dead. They're not ghosts. They're just like lost in town. So he's got a lot of heavy makeup on.
Yeah, a lot of what he says, even in his speech, is a little off.
Yeah.
In terms of story.
Right.
Can I share something real quick? Because I think this is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Now, this is, I had no idea they did a pocket watch.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's something similar to this because, like, why would you really even change it? But
Right.
I found the Tower of Terror for Tokyo Disney Sea. This is just kind of cool that this was like a commemorative that they gave out. And it looks beautiful. I mean, I don't know whether or not it looked anything like this. Now, this is the Harrison High Tower one, so a little bit different, but
Yeah.
I couldn't find one for Cali, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah. It must be pretty rare.
As a watch fan, I think that's pretty neat.
So I also have this shirt too, Kirk. I thought you enjoyed this one. This is a vintage shirt from the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror from California Adventure, and it says, "I survived!" an exclamation point and some lightning.
Dude, that is quintessential coded for like the 90s into the early 2000s. I conquered, I survived. Amazing.
Yeah.
10 out of 10 shirt. Would buy it immediately right now if it was less than $15. I got a budget, all right?
the opening ceremonies for Disneyland Paris were quite a bit different. You know, you also have to think in between 2004 and 2007, how much was changing technologically in that era. Lots of innovation happening in our world in general, and especially in Imagineering. So I thought you would really enjoy this, Kirk. Did you get a chance to watch this video from us of the opening ceremonies for Disneyland Paris?
Yeah.
So I thought this was neat because it reminded me so much of like a scare zone for Halloween Horror Nights. Yeah. Like, because the place where they walk through to get to it is like this really dark area that has like all these lights and sounds and lightning flashes and all this stuff. And then they have characters that are dressed up.
Yeah, there's like bellhops walking around.
Yeah, there's bellhops. There's people that are in like period dress from the 30s. And it really does come off as kind of like a scary zone that you walk through on the way to the event. But it just reminded me of Halloween Horror Nights. So they also had in this event, on the side of the building itself, they had that projection mapping. This one was really neat because they actually had it wrapped up like a big present, and then they actually have it unwrapped, like they're literally unwrapping a present, which I think was really
cool.
neat. And then they had some like the jazz musicians from the Tip-Top Club. They said the jazzy sound of the Tip-Top Club, and then they had a whole bunch of more projections following that. It's just a whole show with really dramatic fireworks at the end. I'm just like, so we're just gonna like light this thing on fire after we've built it, I guess.
Yes. Yes.
That's what we do.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie. The opening ceremony in DCA, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think about all the opening ceremonies we've had at Disney since I've been there. Remy's, Guardians, Tron. We suck, bro. We're awful.
Comparatively?
It's so boring. Like, it's nothing. It's literally nothing. It's like, oh, we just have soft openings. Like, there's no, like, ribbon cutting. There's no, like, fanfare. There's nothing.
Yeah.
This was like a show. Like, this was a production, a show, a celebration. None of that has happened for any of the last big e-tickets in World.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like this used to be so huge, especially think of in Disney history in Disneyland. Back when they'd open new attractions, it was like they'd have the TV show that would highlight all of it.
Yeah.
Walt Disney's talking about it, and then they would have all the celebrities come out and ride it. And it was just like a whole giant, and then they'd have the ribbon cutting. I mean, they still have ribbon cuttings, obviously, but it's like, it's just, yeah, I agree. It is nowhere near as fun events as they used to be.
Do you remember when Space Mountain opened? You had like Mickey dressing up in like a futuristic outfit, like
little
it was
like
so cool.
ears and an astronaut's helmet. Yeah,
I don't know what I mean. They did have some costumes for Tron, but that was like a very specific press event, and there was no other like big fanfare. It was just like a small section that was like sequestered off to the side.
Yeah, I don't know why they decided to change that, but it is an interesting change. I'm glad you pointed it out because these ones were really interesting to see.
I'm not pointing it out, Kate. I'm pointing distaste. Pick a side, lady.
Noted. Okay. So that's where we're going to come to a stop for now before we actually enter into this attraction. And the interesting thing is, you know, we had really extensive gardens and area leading up to this in Walt Disney World. We don't really have that in these areas. You know, there is some facades and stuff in Disneyland Paris, but honestly, the gardens are very, very small. So I predict our next episode will likely cover the entirety of the exterior of the queue and probably get into a portion of the lobby because it's just so small. The garden is tiny.
I still have plants to talk about, though.
Yeah. Of course. Kirk's always going to have his plants.
I already saw a couple. I was excited. Not gonna lie. When I was in California, I was like, well, we got a couple ferns we gotta talk about.
Thrilling content ahead for you all. Oh, so foolish.
Chlorophyll, more like borophyll.
Classic.
I don't know, dude. I like it. It's fun.
Well, thank you all for joining us for this episode of Distory. Kirk, do you have any final thoughts here as we wrap up?
No.
I'm going to say we don't need to bring back Buddy the Bellman. I think we're Bellhop. Buddy the Bellhop can just be a thing of the past.
When he came out the second time, people cheered for him.
Well, they do like the Bellhops. The Bellhops are great. I just don't like his makeup and the storytelling that he did.
The storytelling is wild.
It's weird. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you everybody for being with us for this episode of Distory. We hope you enjoyed diving into the very beginning of the California version of the Tower of Terror. And next time we will actually start getting in this thing and exploring exactly what is different from all of the things that we saw in the Florida version. But thanks for being with us as always. We appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next time for another episode of Distory.